Adrian. I appreciate your time. And for everyone that's attending, I appreciate you taking some time out of your busy schedules. As Adrian had mentioned, my name is Eric Moreau. I work on the pre-sales and partner enablement team here at Acumatica. I'm not quite at 6 months yet with Acumatica, but I'm looking at, I guess, 20 years or so in technology. Prior to joining the ranks over here at Acumatica, got experience with Financial Force, SAP on both the Business One and the By Design products, Microsoft Great Plains back in the day, and then my background is accounting. So I've enjoyed the switch into technology and the perpetual closing of the books, and happy to say I've never really wanted to look back. So so as we look at the lead to cash journey, if you will, this is the flow for today's session. So we're going to talk about lead generation, how you can import transactions or leads directly into Acumatica via an Excel spreadsheet. That's something you may have, maybe it's a bot list, or maybe you scanned some folks at a trade show, or it's all the trade show attendees and you want to bring them into Acumatica and work those leads. We're also going to talk how, if you're on Outlook, you can bring transactions or email into Outlook, into Acumatica via the Outlook integration. And how do you maintain those leads once they've been created within Acumatica? For example, how do you assign those leads to people within the organization so that they can work the leads? From there, we're going to create an opportunity. Okay, and once we're on opportunity, we're going to look at activity tracking. Now, activities are available throughout Acumatica, but I'm going to focus specifically on opportunities today. I'm going to show you a little bit of follow-up reporting, how Acumatica can help you manage things proactively instead of reactively, and how I can be reminded that there's an opportunity out there that needs to be followed up on. It's been greater than 30 days, for example. From there, we're going to take that opportunity. We're going to create a couple of quotes against that opportunity. So this is some new functionality to version 2018 that we're looking at today, by the way. I'm going to create a couple of quotes on the opportunity. The customer is going to choose which quote works best for them, and then we're going to transfer that quote to a sales order. Now that that sales order has been created, we're going to look at inventory availability. We're going to determine some shipping rates, and we're going to prepare for shipment. As we prepare for shipment, we're going to be able to generate a pick list. We're going to be able to confirm the shipment. We're going to identify the tracking number, generate the shipping label, and ultimately transfer that over to the invoice. Once we have the invoice, we will post the invoice to the general ledger. We'll show the journal entries associated with that, as well as the impact on accounts receivable. And we'll wrap up the session today by talking about cash receipts against that invoice that we just created, and that will complete our flow lead to cash flow. So before I get into the product, again, just to reinforce, we are looking at 2018 R1 that was just released a few weeks ago. So it is our latest and greatest release to the world, if you will. Also, everything that I'm showing you today is out-of-the-box functionality. So there are no third-party products involved, and there are no customizations that I had to create specifically for this presentation. So I just wanted you to take note of that. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and hop into Acumatica, and we're going to come back and see this fancy dashboard here in just a couple of minutes. But the first thing I wanted to do is just talk about, as I mentioned at the top of the show, how do I bring in a list of folks from a trade show or a bot list or whatever the case may be that I want to work as leads. So I'm going to use these import scenarios. Now, there's a number of import scenarios that are available to us within Acumatica, but I'm going to focus on the one around leads. So I'm going to go ahead and select the lead import scenario. Now, again, as I mentioned, I've been around technology here for quite a bit, and this next piece of functionality I'm going to show you is actually kind of pretty neat. I can just move a couple of things over here. It's the ability to, let me move my GoToMeeting away. All right, it's the ability to drag and drop a file specifically onto a window within Acumatica. So in this case, I actually have an ERP bar trade show, and I'm going to drag and drop that file directly onto my Acumatica. And you can now see how it's been added to Acumatica. And if I just blow this back up, all right, we're back on track. There we go. So now if I prepare, you can see that 9 opportunity or leads have been brought into Acumatica. Now, I could have uploaded the file version there, but just the ability to drag and drop like that, some pretty neat functionality. Now, if I want, I can toggle processing So I've got all these transactions now are going to be processed when I go ahead and prepare and import, and they're going to create leads. So I'm going to go ahead and click prepare and import, and I'm going to go ahead and choose yes. And what you'll see here up in the green here very quickly, if I go under the history now, we're going to see prepare, import, there we go. Sorry, I think I clicked on prepare a second time. Now if I go on to history, we'll see that we actually have 9 leads that we had brought in, and one of them was actually Phyllis Beck there. So if I come back in here, I can look up Phyllis Beck. And sure enough, there's Phyllis Beck that I just brought in. You'll note here that actually she's there's been no owner assigned to her. So within Acumatica, what I have the ability to do, I can actually assign leads as well. So if I go to the tab here called Today's Leads, and I'm going to choose all of these, right? And go ahead and process all. What we're doing now is based on some criteria within Acumatica, and it can be certain fields, for example. I've now said that I want to assign this lead to, in this case, Kachine Williams for follow-up. So just like that, very easily. Again, the idea, I have a list. I need to bring those leads into Acumatica so I can start to work them. Okay, and we're going to come back and look at the lead window here in just a minute. But before I do that, I actually want to show you how I can bring in an opportunity from Outlook as well. So here I'm looking at an opportunity from Kent Richardson, and he's writing to Max. And I'm Max, by the way. I'm logged in as Max at here at Revision 2, the company I'm working with. And you'll see as I'm looking at this email, I can actually click on the Acumatica logo. Now, also note that Kent has a file attached to his email. So what I'm going to do is I click on the Acumatica logo, and I just log in here. It's a little bit idle. Go ahead and click admin. Okay, and because Kent is not listed already in Acumatica, it's going to give me an opportunity to create the lead. And I'm just going to put some, you call him, he's a purchasing manager. And we talk about integration. I mean, if you look, I'm going to assign him to an opportunity. He works over at USA Bartending School. So as I do type the first few letters, it's doing the smart lookup into Acumatica. Okay, so very powerful. And then the source I can put is web, and I'm going to go ahead and create lead. Well, now that I've created that lead, I can also log some activity against that lead. So very quickly, I'm able to do that. And so we're going to close Outlook for now. So we're done with that. I'm going to use my universal search to call up the lead called Kent Richardson. And sure enough, there he is. And very powerful. If you look at the activities, there's the email that Kent had sent me earlier, as well as an attachment. If you look on the left-hand side, you can see the gold icon here, and that's just a simple Word document that I attach for demonstration purposes. But from here, I can open it as well. But again, I want to demonstrate to you how robust the Outlook integration is in bringing those leads over to Acumatica. Now, what types of things can be found on a lead window? Well, the details, all the information, phone number, web address, if you wanted to. Attributes are very powerful for a new lead. Again, if you're capturing this information, we could have brought that electronically. So for example, if Kent's in the chemicals, coatings, and plastics, the number of employees, and I'm not going to fill all of these out, but company revenue, etc. Activities we talked about, and we're going to drill down on those a little bit when we talk about opportunities. Relations, if I have parent-child relationships within my customers, I can manage that. But also jump over to marketing list, you'll see that Kent was automatically added to my marketing list called new leads. So any leads or any lists or marketing events I do for the group called new leads, Kent will automatically be receiving notification as well. So I've maintained the lead here for quite a while, a couple weeks perhaps. At this point, I'm ready to go ahead and create an opportunity, or I could convert it to a contact or a business account. In this case, I'm going to go ahead and create the opportunity. And sure enough, I now have the opportunity, which would be the next stage here, if you will. Now, I'm actually going to call up number 374 because I had actually done a little bit of work on this opportunity, and I really want to drive home the concept around activities. Now, again, activities are available throughout Acumatica, okay? So you can put them on master records. You can put them on documents like we have here, opportunities, quotes, sales orders, purchase orders, whatever the case may be, you're gonna be able to track activities. Now, if you look back on March the 7th, Sam from USA Bartending called about they want to get some employee giveaways, if you will. On the 13th, I called Sam back. On the 16th, we arranged for Sam to come visit. Now, on the 30th, which is Friday, I believe, we have to call Sam to finalize the order. And what it's doing, actually, if you look at the little bell there, it's actually got a reminder on here as well. So on the 29th in the evening, I'm going to get a reminder that I need to call Sam the next day to follow up with him. So again, ways in which Acumatica can help you manage the system proactively, or manage your processes proactively instead of reactively. Now, as I mentioned earlier, there's some new functionality within Acumatica, and it's specifically around quotes on opportunities. So if I click on the quote tab here, and if I go ahead and click on the plus sign, I'm going to go ahead and accept the default, so I can create a new quote, and it's quote number 11, of which here I can drill back and I can see the quote. So I just want to point out that, look, we're still on opportunity number 374, but within that opportunity, we're working on quote number 11. I do want to set an expiration date, and we're going to set an expiration date for the 3rd. Okay. I can add some products here, and again, there's a smart lookup. As I start typing the first few letters, I'm going to be able to choose the item, and I'm going to choose a quantity of 3. Now, at this point, I can go ahead and save the quote, or I could have submitted the quote right at the same time. I didn't necessarily need to save it first. But if you look, the quote is now grayed out, if you will, and it's locking down the quote because it's in essence ready to be sent to the customer. So if I want, I can go ahead and send the quote over to Sam Malone over at USA Bartending if I wanted to. Again, when we talk about activities, if you look at the activities tab, you'll now see there's the quote number 11 that we just sent over to Sam, and it's being logged on this quote. It's also being logged on the opportunity. It's also being logged on the contact for Sam Malone. Okay, and if we drill back here, this is again very raw, but you have the ability to modify these quotes to meet your specific needs, but I just kind of wanted to show you what that looked like. Okay, so now in this point, let's just say that Sam calls me back and says, geez, I like what you have here, but I think what I want to do instead of, 3 laptops, maybe I want to mix that up a little bit. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy the initial quote, okay, and if I click OK, all right, you see I'm working still within opportunity number 374, but now it's a new quote, and we're going to put an expiration date on here of the, well, the 2nd, doesn't really matter at this point, but we're going to add some additional items. So I'm going to add this, and we're going to add a Lego kit. One of our employees likes Lego kits, and he's up for a potential award. So we're going to add 1 Lego kit, and maybe we're going to reduce the laptops. So if you look what happened, the overall opportunity amount is now decreased to $1,100. So I'm going to go ahead and save this, and you see what they're on quote number 12. Okay, so I'm going to submit this, which again is going to make it available to me for shipping, or excuse me, for emailing if I wanted to. I'm also going to mark it as the primary. So now if I click back on opportunity number 374, and if I go onto the quotes tab, you'll see that I have 2 opportunities there. Number 11 was the original one that we had created, and then number 12 is the second one. And that's why we're showing $1,100 on the opportunity. But if you look at the products, it's also showing 2 laptops and 1 Lego kit. Now, if I wanted to, if he calls me back and says, you know what, I think I do want to go with the 3 laptops, I can go ahead and mark this as primary and see how my opportunity is getting updated automatically, as well as the products on the opportunity. Okay. Now, I am going to go back and just so we have a couple items as we move over to our sales order, which is going to be our next stage. I'm going to mark quote number 12 as our our primary quote. Okay, so before we move this over to sales order, I just want to talk about a little bit about some reporting within Acumatica. Well, one of the things that's actually kind of neat is if you look at if I look at my dashboard on Acumatica, okay, now because I'm in the sales role, my dashboard is going to be unique to me. I can have a dashboard that brings the important pieces of information directly to me, and these are the items that I'm concerned about. Right here, I have an open opportunity. Matter of fact, I have 6 open opportunities, of which there has been no activity for 30 days. Okay, so that's not necessarily related to stages, but this item on the right is actually tied to stage. So now I can say, give me all opportunities that are in nurture stage, for which there's been no activity in the last 90 days. So again, every morning as a salesperson, I'm going to be able to have this staring me at the face. Or if I'm a sales manager, I'm going to have it staring me in the face so I can reach out to my salespeople and say, what's going on here? And then just to give you an example of what that would look like, I would drill back onto the 29 opportunities, and I would click on number 304 here. And I'm going to add an activity, very simple. So ERP var, and just save and close it and quickly. And if I go back onto my dashboard, you'll now see that I have 28 opportunities greater than 90 for which there has been no activity. We were at 29 just a moment ago. Okay. Another kind of interesting report that was added to Acumatica recently through this new update was through quotes. And if I look here, I have quotes expiring in a week. Okay, so again, there's the two. I think at number 11, 12 we just created. There's number 12, which is the primary one. Okay, that's the one we're fixing to move over to a sales order. Okay, so if I'm a salesperson and I have quotes that are expiring within a week, I can come in here and see them, and this is going to be my cue, if you will, to follow up with them and say, okay, Tampa Bay food distribution, this quote's going to expire. What do you want to do here? And given that it's a primary quote, we want to make sure, maybe they need a new quote. And there's other quotes out there that they want us to provide to them. Okay, so I'm going to drill back on to opportunity number 374 here. And at this point, what we're going to do is we actually are going to transfer this to a sales order. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and create the sales order, and I'm going to accept the defaults and note. Okay, so what you'll see here is that we're on a new sales order, and there's our two items that came over for us. I'm going to go ahead and save this. Okay. I just want to talk briefly about actions. Throughout the first portion of the session and throughout the remainder of the session today, you're going to see me reaching for actions. Okay. I want you to recognize that that can also be done systematically. So every time I reach for actions, I want you to make the connection that I can do this electronically through the system. I can set up a recurring event within Acumatica so I don't have to create the shipment. Okay, so we don't want, again, what I'm doing today is crawl, walk, run, right? I want you to see what managing a document within Acumatica looks like. But I also want you to be aware that if you have 200 or 300 invoices a day or sales orders a day, I can manage these through the process without having to touch each one individually, because that's a big concern for people. Geez, Eric, I have 200, 300 sales orders. I can't touch them every day. So we do have the ability within the system to manage these items systematically as well. So we're on a sales order here. And the next couple of things I want to talk about really involve total cost of ownership, or TCO, some people may refer to it. So when you're looking at solutions, it's important that the solution can be as all-encompassing and that you're working with a core functionality as much as possible. Well, the next two things I'm going to show you are built into the product. And competing products that I've worked with or competitors that I see today during Acumatica demos, and someone says, well, can you show me, how do I, identify how much shipping is going to cost, or, what's a credit card transaction look like? Oftentimes the answer, and I have had to do it in my previous lives as well, say, oh, that's a third-party product. We'll have to worry about, somebody else, another, it's going to be another license agreement. It's another vendor to work with. This neat thing right here, first thing I want to show you is shipping settings. Okay, so if I click on shop for rates, okay, what it's doing now, it's actually going to look out into the profiles for my UPS and my FedEx relationship and identify what it would cost to ship these three products via, for example, UPS ground would be $33.42. It's going to take 7 days. It should arrive on the 4th. Okay, so talk about from a customer service standpoint, great being able to tell your customers, it should be there on the 4th. Maybe you're on the phone with them, or you're going to be able to email this to them as well. From a picking standpoint and packing standpoint, it also tells me for these three items, Eric, you're going to need a medium box in order to fulfill this particular order. So I'm going to go ahead and click OK. All right, and if I click on the totals item here, you can see that the freight has been added to my totals for the document. Okay, now, we do work with other partners. For example, I know many of you are familiar with the Starship product from V Technologies. Okay, so we do some basic, being able to identify the pricing and costing of the freight, but products like Starship would allow you to take it to the next level. But at least it's core functionality that we're providing and getting the information straight away as it relates to, when will it be delivered and how much will it cost to have it shipped. Okay, the other neat functionality I want to show you that's built into the product in Acumatica, we are payment card industry compliant, or some people may call PCI compliant. That's payment card industry, meaning that the way we manage credit cards within Acumatica meets the standards of the world, if you will. We're not storing credit card information within Acumatica, but we are processing those transactions the way that the credit card lords have determined it should be handled. Now, in this case, let's just say that this customer is a been a good customer, but they've got some credit issues, so we're going to ask if they pay by credit card. So when I change this to the Visa card, you'll see that the credit card, some information is popping up, so I can confirm at least the last four, so they can say, yep, I still want you to use that card. On the right-hand side, if I choose authorize, what it's going to do, it's going to do the pre-authorization for that credit card. It's going to go out and say, yep, this should accommodate $1,100 worth of purchases. Now, if we're a cash and carry store, if you happen to have a storefront and they're standing in front of you and want to take product with you straight away, you can actually click capture credit card payment, and it's going to update the transaction as if they had paid directly with the credit card at that point. Okay, so again, and again, we work with a partner, American Payment Solutions, a good partner of ours as well. We're doing some again, basic credit card inquiries around pre-authorizations, but a company like American Payment Solutions will help take it to the next level, if you will. Okay, but again, what's important is you recognize it's out-of-the-box functionality. At this point, what we're going to do is we're actually going to create shipment. Again, I'm reaching for actions. Remember, oh, that's right, Eric said I could do that systematically. He doesn't necessarily need to reach for actions, but we're going to go ahead and create the shipment. So now we're preparing to pick that particular item. So if you look, we're now going to be on shipment number 1711, okay? And now that I've done that, I can actually create the pick list or print the pick list if I want to. So the idea here is you would actually, maybe you have all your pick list print automatically at 8 o'clock in the morning, or you want to have them print at the end of the day so that you're ready for the next morning. Okay, so then again, this is just what it would look like if I looked at my pick list. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead. No, let's call it 11. Clicked off it by accident. Shipment 1711. Okay, so at this point we've boxed it up, we put it in a crate, maybe it's on a conveyor belt, maybe it's in a shopping cart, if you will. It's going to be boxed up. At this point, what we're going to do is confirm the shipment. And now if I look at that packages tab, okay, right there, immediately I now have access to my tracking number. Okay, and again, we talk about total cost of ownership. Eric, what do I got to do to get a shipping label out of Acumatica? Well, if you look at this, similar to that lead that we saw earlier with Kent, and it had the attachment showing me, whatever he had in his email, I'm now going to provide you your shipping label as well. So remember, we're still looking at core functionality. All right, so very powerful, very robust, and again, some of our competing products can't do that as nicely as we can without the use of a third party. Okay. So from here, again, I can continue to email if I wanted to. So again, this email would include the tracking number if we wanted to. What I'm going to do is actually go ahead and prepare the invoice. Okay, so what it's doing now is it's creating the invoice, and I'm going to go ahead and release this. So what release means in Acumatica, it's posting to the general ledger. So throughout Acumatica, you'll see reference to releasing. What I could have done, instead of doing this manually, I could have set up a procedure that says at 4 o'clock, I want all shipments that have been finalized, confirmed, if you will, I want you to move those to general ledger. And now if I click on the financial details, we talk about an integrated solution. We've spent most of our time in the front office, right, in CRM, and then we talked about distribution. Well, now we're looking at what we call the back office, which is the journal entry that's associated with that transaction. So some neat functionality within our general ledger as well. So the things you'd expect to see, there's my debit to accounts receivable, credits to revenue. Now, because we had two different items, right? We had the Acer laptop and we had the Lego kit. It went to two different sub accounts. So our chart of accounts pretty robust as well. So if you have unique reporting requirements, whether it's multi-company or multi-department, we're going to be able to accommodate that within Acumatica. Okay, and the other thing I like about this is it also shows me the quantity within the journal entry. So if I'm wondering, geez, I wonder how many they bought, I can access that information, as well as the transaction description is going to be at my fingertips. Now, if I want to, I can actually go back in. That was the general ledger. If I come back here, I can see the invoice transaction as well. Okay, so here's the update to asset, inventory asset, and the cost of goods sold as well. Okay, so fully integrated, real time. I did post that manually. I could have done it automatically as well when the transaction was completed. I could have had that post as well. And the next thing we want to do is, now that that transaction is out there, let's go ahead and receive a cash payment against it. So now working again with USA Bartending. Okay. And, like I think normally what you and I would see, we have a check sitting in front of me, and I would enter that amount directly into the payment amount window. But what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to go ahead and down at the line item detail, I'm going to go ahead and choose number 5718, which is the transaction we just created, so we can finish this off. It's 1145. So what I'm going to do is 1145.54, and we're going to go ahead and release this. And we're going to, again, be able to see the journal entry associated with that. And if I click on the financial details, okay, so we now have the journal entry where I'm relieving accounts receivable and updating cash as well. Okay, so that was kind of the lead to cash journey, if you will. Now, hopefully we didn't go too fast, but let's just reinforce what we had done here. Whoop. Sorry about that. Let me call this up a little bit. Okay. Whoop. Okay, so reinforce. What we started with, we had that file, if you will, from a trade show. It's a list I bought. It scans from our booth. I was able to bring that in electronically into Acumatica. I was able to maintain that lead, okay? I was also able to use Outlook to bring in a email from Kent Richardson. It made an inquiry. Maybe it's going to a general sales box, if you will. But again, it was able to bring that inquiry via email into Acumatica. And remember, it also brought in the attachment for me, okay? I was also able to assign those leads out. So I had, remember my example, I just brought in 9 leads. I was then able to assign those leads to a salesperson, so those leads can now start getting work. And again, I was doing that electronically as well, so I didn't have to touch every lead if I wanted to. Once I had that lead, I transferred it over to the opportunity. Remember, I showed you the activities, and we can store all of our activities on the opportunity, as well as anything within Acumatica. But I showed you how we had 4 different activities on the opportunity. And then one of them had a reminder on it, had the little bell on it as a reminder showing me that I'm going to be able to get a reminder that I need to do this, if you will. And I think I had it notifying me that the next day I need to do something. I showed you how you can use those dashboards to manage your business proactively and reactively. So we had all open opportunities greater than 30 days that had no contact. All right. And then we also had all opportunities that are in stage nurture that hadn't been contacted in 90 days. So we want to start working those opportunities. Okay. And then I showed you that new functionality within Acumatica, creating a quote. So we use those 2 quotes. One was marked as primary. Remember, when I marked it as primary, it updated the dollars on the opportunity. It updated the products as well on the opportunity. Okay. And then I was ultimately able to transfer that over to the sales order. Okay, so we have the ability to evaluate inventory availability at that time. We can determine shipping rates. We showed you that out-of-the-box functionality that's quite popular, and then we're able to prepare for shipment. Okay, once we were in the shipment fulfillment area, we were able to generate the pick list. Once I confirmed shipment, I was able to show you the tracking number and generate the shipping label. I was able to move that over to the invoice, post that invoice, show the impact of both journal entry and accounts receivable, and ultimately end up with a cash receipt. Okay, so that is all I had for today. Hopefully it was an enjoyable session. At this point, Adrian, I would like to open it up for questions.